We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away with it.
This Turning Point conference, the were in the front of out there in front of the conference with anti-Semitic slurs, and the cigar.
I think it's important that every single person that attended that Turning Point, every Republican, speak up against these stickers, against the flags that were waved.
You let them in.
President, open your
You let them in and you knew what they were.
Right.
So you are complicit.
He's going to hunt you down. He's going to find out what's going on. And that's good. That's good for everybody. That's how you should be looking at this. Like, wow, we have a brilliant mind that is examining these really corrupt and goofy systems and bringing in a bunch of psychopath wizards. But Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out.
Joe Rogan didn't just speak. He unleashed an all-out roast that scorched the set of The View without even stepping foot in their studio. And this wasn't just another joke or jab. It was a full-blown takedown that had viewers glued to their screens. Why now? Because Charlie Kirk just dropped a legal bomb worth $100 million on the daytime divas, and the drama erupted like fireworks on live television. You've never seen chaos like this before.
Charlie Kirk's the founder and CEO of Turning Point USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept The View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here. They went after our 5,000 students at our event there, of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country, that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them because someone at ABC says that they might be linked to
Charlie Kirk, the firebrand founder of Turning Point USA, wasn't having it anymore. When The View hosts tossed false claims his way, he didn't flinch. He filed a lawsuit that shook the media to its core. This wasn't just any lawsuit. It was a $100 million slap in the face to the smug laughter and careless accusations thrown out on live TV like confetti. And suddenly, the mood on The View changed from playful to panic.
So, I mean, The View has to be if you average out The View hosts, among the dumbest people on television. And so it's like they say the thing that people are thinking, but they say it very directly, so they expose whatever truth. But
I don't think some of them are dumb.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think Sunny Hostin's
You think it's deliberate?
I think she's ideologically driven, and they have blinders on, for sure. I don't think Sunny's dumb. But Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person, and what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked, and you went on stage with it and it's nothing.
Just
there.
Go for it. Yeah,
there's nothing there. Sometimes comics do that.
Kirk didn't just stand up for himself. He stood up for 5,000 high school and college students who attended his youth summit. Kids who were unfairly smeared by TV personalities with a national platform. I get attacked all the time, Kirk said calmly. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds, you cross a line.
Now we begin with a shocking apology just a short time ago from the ladies of The View to Turning Point USA. A war of words broke out after the conservative group was rallying the next generation of voters at its youth summit in Tampa, Florida this weekend. And the liberal panel just couldn't help themselves. The group sent a scathing cease and desist letter after hosts on The View suggested that Turning Point had embraced neo who showed up outside the event.
That line, it seems, just turned into a legal wall built with fury and firm resolve. The hosts of The View had insinuated something dark, something that cast a shadow over thousands of young people. And that didn't sit well with Charlie Kirk, or with Joe Rogan, who saw right through the spin. Rogan lit into them with that signature tone, cool, sarcastic, and brutally sharp. It was like watching a heavyweight throw knockout punches while the other side scrambled for their cue cards.
Do you see what Whoopi Goldberg said?
What'd she say?
Whoopi Goldberg said that Biden could arrest all the Republicans and put them in jail. You just need to see how unhinged this kind of thinking is. Well, you know what Joe Biden could do? Joe Biden, you have to see it because it's so
on TV.
crazy.
She said
on television.
You know, just let's look at a scenario where the Supreme Court says, yes, he has all those rights. He is immune from everything.
Yeah.
You know what Joe Biden could do since he is presently president?
What?
Whoa. He could throw every Republican in jail.
He didn't just mock, he exposed. He tore into their arrogance, their careless words, and their refusal to take responsibility. It was savage, hilarious, and absolutely devastating. And let's be honest, The View isn't known for taking hits well. They're used to being the ones talking loudest, not getting roasted in front of millions by a man with a mic and nothing to lose. Joe called out their hypocrisy, pointing to how they attack conservatives with zero hesitation. But when the heat turns up, they shrink behind half-baked apologies and legal loopholes. You average out The View hosts, Rogan joked. You might be looking at the dumbest people on television. The laughter was loud. But the truth in that sentence? Even louder. He even gave Sunny a pass. Barely. Suggesting she wasn't dumb, just blinded by ideology. But whoopee, Rogan didn't hold back. Not the brightest person, he said bluntly, and the internet exploded. He called Whoopi's comments half-baked, nonsensical, and compared them to a comedian trying out a joke with no punchline. It was cruel. It was comedic. It was classic Rogan. Then came the clips, video after video of The View's hosts fumbling, backtracking, and trying to rewrite their own narrative. It was like watching a sinking ship patch holes with tissue paper.
Welcome back. You know, in Monday's conversation about Turning Point USA, I put the young people at the conference in the same category as the protesters outside. And I don't like it when people make assumptions about me, and it's not any better when I make assumptions about other people, which I did. So, my bad. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So,
Rogan didn't stop there. He mocked their smugness, their selective outrage, and their tendency to toss around accusations like candy at a parade. Except this time, someone caught the candy and threw it back, hard. Kirk's lawsuit wasn't a publicity stunt. It was a declaration, a message to every media figure who thinks they can say whatever they want with no consequences. Suddenly, The View found themselves on the receiving end of a legal sledgehammer, and the sound it made was heard across every network and social media platform. The apology from The View? It was too little, too late. A sheepish, stuttering segment where one host quietly said, "My bad. I'm sorry." Like that would erase the damage. But the storm was already here. And Rogan, he made sure everyone saw it. His commentary wasn't just funny, it was cutting, clear, and utterly unforgiving. The lawsuit sparked a wildfire, and Rogan's mockery was the gasoline. Together, they created a spectacle no one could turn away from, and the fallout was immediate. The View tried to downplay it, acting like it was just a minor misunderstanding. But a $100 million lawsuit doesn't scream, "Oops," it screams, "You crossed the line." Viewers saw through the spin.
The culture shift between right and left authoritarianism, and now people don't recognize that if you just stop looking at it in terms of red and blue, look at the actions, whether it's war, suppression of free speech, pharmacological interventions that are mandatory, right. whatever it is, that used to all be associated with the authoritative right, the authoritarian right, and now those things are being embraced by the left. And I just think it's just an ideology thing, and I think we get confused and we think we're on the right side, we're on the right side. And if it's our side that's saying this, for sure that's the right thing to do. And no one's critically thinking about this.
Joe Rogan is the gateway drug for young men that thought they were Democrats to become MAGA. Joe Rogan is the bridge. And on that bridge, they'll see RFK. They'll see Elon Musk.
Clips of Rogan's roast were going viral. Memes were flooding timelines, and even The View's defenders were struggling to justify what had happened. The irony? The same hosts who yell, "Accountability," every episode were now trying to squirm their way out of it. Rogan pointed that out too, with his usual dry grin and a punchline that hit like a hammer. "Imagine pretending to be moral while tossing baseless accusations," Rogan smirked, and then acting shocked when someone punches back. With a legal team, The View might control the narrative during commercial breaks, but Rogan doesn't stop for ads. His commentary kept rolling, dismantling their defenses with every brutal observation. Kirk, meanwhile, wasn't backing down. He was doubling down. He made it clear. This lawsuit was about more than himself. It was about media accountability. He said it plain. This isn't about me. It's about a culture that thinks it can bully anyone who doesn't agree with them. And people listened, loud and clear. As the courtroom looms and Rogan keeps roasting, The View finds itself in unfamiliar territory, not as the judge, but as the defendant. And the silence from their set? Deafening. This entire meltdown became a symbol, a boiling point in the culture wars, where the courtroom meets the soundstage and nobody is safe from scrutiny anymore.
I think the problem with that show is that show has this very specific ideological bubble in which they operate in, and they always bring on a token conservative woman and they yell over her and silence her. And, they did that with Meghan McCain, and they did that with what is that other blonde woman from Survivor? Do you remember her, Jamie? She was always yelling. I mean, it's a bizarre show.
Rogan's voice echoed through every screen, every feed, every platform. He wasn't just reacting, he was revealing, pulling back the curtain on the illusion of moral superiority. And now? The View hosts are left scrambling. The lawsuit's still in motion, and Rogan's roast is still trending. The question is, what's next in this daytime disaster? As the headlines spread like wildfire, it became impossible to ignore. Charlie Kirk's lawsuit wasn't just shaking things up, it was flipping the entire media game on its head. The View had spent years throwing verbal punches at their guests and opponents. But now, someone had punched back, and with a $100 million legal fist. Rogan kept the heat coming. In his podcast, he laughed about the hypocrisy, how The View demands accountability from everyone but refuses to own their own mess. He called out the arrogance of daytime hosts who act like they're untouchable, until a courtroom shows up with a subpoena and reality hits harder than any insult ever could.
Megan, I get it. I also hate Joy Behar. So I don't love you, but I also hate that squawking bird. So I hate the whole thing. And frankly, that show, you want to talk about a show that set women back, is The View. You want to talk about that show. If the CIA is engineering, Antifa and fucking the Capitol riot, some crazy misogynist engineered The View, because there's nothing worse than The View. In terms of there are so many brilliant women out there. None of them are on The View. None of them have gone near the set of The View. I mean, they have brought in the lowest tier of the, what is it, the Y chromosome?
No, double
X.
Okay. Double X.
They brought in the lowest of the double X's for that one. It's rough.
And just when people thought it couldn't get more outrageous, clips surfaced of Whoopi Goldberg musing out loud about Biden arresting Republicans. Yes, she really said that on live TV. Rogan couldn't believe it. You see how unhinged this thinking is? He asked. And the world nodded.
Just let's look at a scenario where the Supreme Court says, yes, he has all those rights. He is immune from everything. Yeah. You know what Joe Biden could do since he is presently president?
What?
Whoa. He could throw every Republican in jail.
Because that kind of talk doesn't belong in casual conversation. It belongs in a legal deposition. The View's defenders tried to clean up the mess, claiming it was satire or misunderstood. But the damage had already been done. And Rogan made sure the public didn't forget it. Meanwhile, Kirk's lawsuit was moving full steam ahead. Lawyers preparing documents, analysts breaking down every detail, and insiders leaking what could become a courtroom media storm. And right in the middle of it all, Joe Rogan, tearing down the phony facade with ease and turning the whole drama into a lesson in what happens when you play dirty and get caught. He compared their outrage to a microwave meal pretending to be gourmet, quick, loud, and absolutely lacking substance. The internet lost it. And when he called The View a soap opera without the self-awareness, it was more than just a joke. It was a mirror held up to every ridiculous moment they tried to spin as serious dialogue. Kirk's legal move wasn't just a flex. It was a message to anyone who thought influence equals immunity.
Her disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men, actually, voting more for him. And you have, and black men was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice president.
Right.
Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth.
And Rogan turned that message into a megaphone heard across the country. He reminded everyone that just because you sit behind a desk with makeup and applause doesn't mean your words don't carry consequences. And when the lawsuit was revealed to include a demand for a public apology and damages for defamation, jaws dropped. This wasn't theater anymore. This was legal war. The View tried to issue a half-hearted statement, one that sounded more like a PR consultant's draft than a real apology. And Rogan, he tore it to shreds on air. He read the statement line by line, pausing for sarcastic commentary and eye rolls that sent his audience into fits of laughter. "That's not an apology," he said. "That's a PR Hail Mary." And just like that, the narrative flipped. The View wasn't on offense anymore. They were scrambling to do damage control while Kirk and Rogan controlled the conversation.
Yeah, did you watch the episode when Tulsi Gabbard got on to defend herself and Joy Behar starts panicking and going over her notes while Tulsi is refuting everything that she said?
Yeah, I mean, Joy Behar, like, again, these people have dementia. These are people who, like, should not be allowed out of the house. They have a national platform. I mean, it is crazy. They have no idea. These people have never read, like, a book.
And there's versions of it.
It was a masterclass in media judo, taking the weight of their own words and flipping it back on them with force. And the sound of them crashing was louder than ever. Suddenly, Joy Behar and Sunny Hostin weren't laughing anymore. Behind the scenes, sources said the mood on set had turned icy. No jokes, no banter, just nervous whispers. Insiders leaked that producers were in panic mode. Emergency meetings, legal briefings, and even discussions about settling quietly to avoid a public trial disaster. But it was too late for silence. The public had caught on, and they weren't letting go. Memes flooded the internet. Clips were remixed into viral hits, and Rogan's commentary topped trending charts. His takedown had all the makings of a media classic. Unfiltered, fearless, and so precise it left The View fumbling for words. And Kirk wasn't done either. He took to interviews, podcasts, and social media to double down on his stance, vowing to hold the media accountable no matter the cost. He called it a moment of reckoning, a time when lies on TV would finally meet the truth in court. And people were cheering from every corner of the internet. Even critics of Kirk were forced to admit, this lawsuit hit hard because it exposed something everyone had quietly known.